3 years? That's how long I sacrificed for my father's company. I skipped birthdays, canceled vacations, worked late nights, and treated the business like it was already my future. Then one Friday morning, my father called everyone into the conference room. I expected the promotion I'd spent years earning. Instead, he smiled and announced that my sister's husband, Peter, who had been with the company for only 5 weeks, would become operations manager. The room erupted in applause. I smiled, shook Peter's hand, handed my father an envelope, and quietly said, "Tell Peter congratulations." The silence that followed changed our family forever. My name is Baila Samwail, and for 3 years I believed hard work always wins. When my father started his logistics company, I was the first person to volunteer. I wasn't looking for special treatment because he was my dad. In fact, I worked twice as hard so no one could accuse me of favoritism. I learned every department. I loaded trucks in the rain. I handled angry clients. I solved delivery disasters at midnight. I trained new employees. Whenever something went wrong, people didn't call my father. They called me. Every annual review ended the same way. "Keep going, Baila. Your time is coming." I believed him. Then my sister married Peter. Peter was charming, funny, confident. He also knew almost nothing about the business. My father hired him anyway. I welcomed him warmly. I personally trained him. I showed him our systems, introduced him to suppliers, and even helped him fix mistakes that could have cost us major contracts. 5 weeks later, the company meeting was announced. Everyone whispered the same thing. Baila is finally getting promoted. Even I believed it. Dad walked to the front with a huge smile. "I've chosen someone with leadership qualities and fresh ideas." My heart raced. Then he said, "Congratulations, Peter." The room exploded with applause. I couldn't hear anything after that. 3 years of loyalty, beaten by 5 weeks of family favoritism. Peter stood there smiling proudly while avoiding my eyes. My father looked relieved, almost expecting me to celebrate. Instead, I calmly reached into my bag. I placed an envelope on the conference table. "I appreciate everything I've learned here. I resign." Dad laughed. "Don't be dramatic." I looked straight at Peter. "Tell Peter congratulations." Then I turned to my father. "I hope he knows everything I know." Confused expressions filled the room, because nobody else knew one important detail. For 3 years, I wasn't just managing daily operations. I had personally built the company's entire logistics system, pricing formulas, supplier relationships, customer database, scheduling software, and emergency backup procedures. None of it was documented, because Dad always said, "Your family, you'll always be here." He never imagined I could leave. By Monday morning, the phones wouldn't stop ringing. Drivers couldn't find routes. Orders were delayed. Major clients demanded answers. Suppliers refused shipments because only I had negotiated their contracts. Peter spent hours searching through files that didn't exist. Everything important had been inside my experience. Dad called me 12 times that day. I didn't answer. Tuesday came, then Wednesday. 3 of the company's biggest customers canceled future contracts. Employees started quitting because nobody knew who was actually in charge. Peter finally admitted he couldn't run the business. Dad showed up outside my apartment. For the first time in my life, he looked defeated. He didn't ask me to return. He begged. I made a mistake. I stayed silent. Then he whispered words I had waited years to hear. "You earned that promotion." I looked at him carefully. Did I earn it today, or 3 years ago? He lowered his head. 3 years ago. Those words meant more than the promotion ever could. But trust, once broken, doesn't return overnight. I had already accepted an offer from one of our former clients. They valued my experience immediately. Within a year, I became director of operations. Ironically, many of Dad's old customers followed me because they trusted the relationships I had built. Dad eventually sold the company. Peter left shortly afterward. At a family dinner months later, nobody mentioned promotions anymore. Dad simply looked at me and quietly said, "I'm proud of you." It wasn't enough to erase the past, but it was honest. And sometimes honesty arrives years later than it should. That experience taught me something I'll never forget. Titles can be handed to anyone. Respect cannot. Family connections may open a door, but they cannot replace years of dedication, sacrifice, and earned trust. The day I resigned, many people thought I had lost everything. In reality, it was the day I finally discovered my true value. Never stay where loyalty is ignored and effort is treated as invisible. The right people won't ask you to prove your worth forever, they'll recognize it before someone else does. If this story reminded you that self-respect is worth more than any title, remember this: sometimes walking away is the promotion life was preparing you for all along.